This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Let's face it, life after service ain't always easy. Let's face it, life after service ain't always easy. Far too many veterans continue to struggle in silence. But you don't have to fight this battle alone, because we are here to help. This ain't no group therapy. It's the after party to the battle. Full speed ahead, after battle. Real talk, real stories, no BS.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to another episode of Full Speed Ahead After Battle. As always, I am your host, Josh McCabe. It is October something or other. I don't know because my computer's not telling me because it's not updated to Mississippi time yet. So I told y'all last week a lot of things going on, a lot of phone calls, a lot of major decisions going on in life. So this last week, I'll fill you in a little bit. We had to take a quick trip from Texas, where I'm originally at, down to Mississippi to visit some family. Last week, my father, for those that y'all know, was diagnosed with lymphoma cancer. So he has been struggling with that lately. We're trying to get him into an oncology appointment, trying to work with the VA, trying to figure out stages, all that good stuff. So right now we're doing that whole hurry up and wait thing that we all know too well, right? Oh yeah, we'll get you in, or I'll leave a message for so-and-so, or we'll get you a hold of somebody that'll get you in. And it's like, this isn't like I have a cold, right? This is something a little bit more serious than that. So, I'm down here with my wife for the week, hanging out with him, trying to get some things in order, seeing some other family I haven't seen in a few years. So everything's been good aside from that. Unfortunately, this is the same kind of cancer that his father had and passed away from in a different area of the body. But we are hopeful. Lymphoma cancer is actually one of those ones that is, there are methods to take to, either decrease it or get rid of it. Hopefully it will take a few years, unfortunately, but, as everything that we do, we got to remain positive. We got to keep moving forward. Just like he would say, just because something's going on like this doesn't mean the world stops, right? It keeps going on. We keep carrying on. And so that's what we're doing. That's why we're still here on the show today. Y'all are probably thinking, why are you here if you're dealing with that? Well, because, my father's a veteran. His father's a veteran. Whole family of veterans. That's just what we do. We don't stop when things get tough. We keep going. We keep working forward, moving forward. We keep full speed ahead, if you would say. And so that's what I'm doing here tonight. As soon as we're done with the show, of course, we're going to go back out there and hang out with the old man. Run a few errands this week, see some more family, hang out with them. So that's what's going on in my world. Other than that, the most depressing thing this past couple of days, if you can believe it, is the Cowboys lost again, right, to the Panthers this time. They're becoming one of those teams that, we love the team, but we know that they're going to fail us every year or every week, every year. So dealing with that loss right now, hopefully they can turn around in the next couple of weeks. We'll see how it goes. It's football, people. There's a lot left. Anything can happen. So we'll see what happens next week on, I believe it's Sunday. They're playing the night game, if I remember correctly, but I digress. So let's get into, this thing going on. And I came across a veteran lately watching shows on Facebook or TikTok, wherever they come from. I don't know where they come from in the world, but scrolling through, watching, and he is a veteran, right? He claims to be a veteran. He is a veteran. I don't know. But he's on here selling shirts and selling merchandise about the E4 Mafia. And we all know what the E4 Mafia is, right? And so, I put a polite message on there and I was like, hey, I host this show. We help veterans transition. This is what we do, talk about mental health, all that good stuff. So why don't you come on the show? And instead of that, he puts out, don't go to his show. He's not a real veteran. I'm like, really? That's you're a veteran on social media and you have all these followers and you're selling all this merchandise, but then you're going to claim somebody else isn't a veteran. Don't go that. I'm sorry, people, but that there is not a true veteran. That's somebody that's looking to make a few bucks off of his past, his military, whatever you want to call it. And but unlike other people out there in the world today, I didn't cry. I didn't complain about it. I blocked them and moved on because there's more people out there that are doing the work that I do, that are doing the work of other people like me and putting that message out there and helping those veterans that are actually helping other veterans. And as you all know, I tell you every week, I'm not doing this to become rich and famous. I'm not doing this to get all the exposure or be a social media influencer or any of that. I'm truly doing it to help other veterans, right? I struggled so many years in life, over 10 years in life, ever since I left the Navy and going into college, the workforce and the civilian workforce. I struggled and I could have used a lot of that help. And so that's what I'm here doing, is helping those veterans. And our guest today, I'm excited about this guest because this is one thing that I think is the most important when it comes to veteran suicide and mental health awareness, is that transition aspect, right? Of leaving the military. Sometimes they're forced out. Sometimes they leave on good terms. Sometimes they leave and have nothing planned. And so that transition part is very, very important in a veteran's life. And our guest today, her name is Melanie Wexler, and I'll bring her on here in just a minute. But she is an executive career coach and a LinkedIn strategist. And yes, before you ask, she is going to tell you to log in and get signed up on LinkedIn, because that's what all the professionals do these days, people. I don't do it. I need to do it myself. I need to get back on there. That's the professional thing to do. So I'm excited to have her on today because she's going to, we're going to have that talk about that transition. She's going to tell you how to translate those skills, how to translate that leadership, and how we're going to move forward, how to be the best you that you can be and not be all that you can be, as they say in the Army, but be the best you that you can be. That way you can succeed, whether you're early in your transition or maybe you got out 20 years ago and you're still looking for that help. Maybe this is what you need to do. So if you're just now logging on today, again, we're talking about transitioning. We're talking about skills translation, resume writing, professional branding, all of that good stuff that goes into getting you that right job or that right career going on. So with that, we are going to have Melanie Wexler on our interview of the week.
The interview of the week is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
Melanie, welcome to Full Speed Ahead. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Hopefully you can hear me.
I can. Okay. I can.
Didn't touch
We're
anything.
doing good now. Yeah.
Anything. So, Yeah, no, I'm doing great. You know,
Good.
the day went by fast. There was a lot to unpack in your
Yeah.
opening. So I want to, before we even get to it, first off, I'm sorry to hear about your father. My both, unfortunately, my dad did not pass away from cancer, but because he had to have chemo and things of that nature, he was much older than my long story that ties into being a veteran. So he he was a veteran. He actually, there's a massive age, there was a big age gap, and he was my stepfather, and so
Right.
he was actually a veteran in World War II. He was a gunner in the Air Force.
Okay.
And he flew over missions over England. Is
Okay.
something of we did a lot of research because obviously as veterans, a lot of veterans from that time, and even
Right.
even after that, don't typically speak about their experience. But my kids got to
Right.
open up about it, and part of what's called the Lucky Bastards Club, because he flew so many
Mhm.
missions and never
Right.
obviously got down over England.
Right.
So he had to go through like chemo, or not chemo. He had to go through radiation, which took a toll on his
Mhm.
body. And as he
Yeah.
aged, it just kind of accelerated that. And then my mom passed
Yeah.
away, stage 4 colon cancer.
Wow.
I went through that as
Yeah.
well, and
Yeah.
and it's an interesting stage to be in when
It
you
is.
become you're not the parent, but you have to assume
Mhm.
parental responsibility. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
not always easy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
we've definitely had some interesting conversations over the last couple of days. Of, you remember back when you were a baby and you wiped me or I wiped you, taking care of you? Well, it's your time now. I'm like, that's my sister's job. I will fix the stuff around the house that you can't do. The
right.
joking,
Like,
of course, but it's making light of it and bringing that humor forward, and that's
well,
right now. That's all we can do, right?
and truthfully, that's a big thing. I mean, I very honored to be here. Like I said, my father
Mhm.
was a veteran, and I, a big believer in just having been a recruiter. I was a recruiter for 20 years. I kind of totally washed over that. But,
Mhm.
and so I was a recruiter for 20 years. And so I've worked with all different types of professionals. I have worked with veterans. I've worked with individuals that have, left the military, and, I've seen firsthand where that struggle comes from. So I am a big
Yeah.
believer also with mindset, and whether it's our health, whether it's, our job, and job searching does take a toll on your mindset. Unfortunately, we're just in a world today that is kind of the job market. Unfortunately, we're not, it's an interesting job market that we're facing. And so I
Right.
think having a positive mindset, sometimes you do have to just laugh about it, and you have to,
Yeah.
laughter, wherever that saying came from, laughter is your best medicine. I think it applies
Right.
to your job search as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, thank you for coming on here. So why don't you, I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but why don't you introduce Melanie Wexler, the career coach, LinkedIn expert? How did you get into that? All that good stuff.
well, I was a recruiter for 20 years, and I fell into
Mhm.
recruiting. Honestly, when I first started, I had an opportunity to interview for a position. I'm originally from Missouri, was moving out to Washington D.C., which I'm in Maryland. Been in Maryland for the last 25 years, and fell into recruiting. And I literally fell into it. I didn't even, at 20 plus years ago, didn't know what a recruiter was, didn't know what that did. Built
Yeah.
a career out of it, and really truly enjoyed it until I needed to transition. For a very long time, I never had that answer of what's next. And I think,
Mhm.
probably very many people that are listening today can probably feel that. What's
Yeah.
after the military? Like, this is all I've
Right.
known for, whether it's 4, 8, 6, however long that is, that's what that's your environment. It's structured,
Hmm.
it's set out for you. And so I didn't have that answer for myself, to be honest, and
Right.
made some missteps, went through a very tumultuous year of 2000. This was back 2017. I
Hmm.
was single mom. My son was off at college, but my daughter was with me at the time. And yeah, I was faced lot of a lot of issues because I got laid off. I left for one position, ended up getting laid off the Thursday before Thanksgiving. I remember that to the day that it happened. And really felt like, wow, I've ruined my 20-year career. Like I've thrown it all away. I've messed it up. And so I had an introduction to coaching, and truthfully, I wasn't going to be a coach. I wasn't going to plan on that. And what started just as a side business, honestly, to earn income, I needed cash.
Yeah.
Some people, what was the purpose and the cause? And I was like, I wish I had something, beautifully to like that. It was so much. But no, I was a single mom and I needed cash, and
there you go.
started using the skills that I had, and ultimately, had some clients come back and say, hey, could you do this? And now we're here 8 years later and have built a business from this and truly enjoy it. And I've, definitely, along the way realized this was what, this was the next logical step. And, even if I didn't know it then. So.
Good. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you took something, a lot of people try to take that hobby, right, and turn it into a career or something to do. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, but I'm glad that you were able to turn that into something positive, and you're out there helping a lot of other people. So you're not doing it just for yourself. You're out there helping so many other people. And I know a lot of veterans that you're helping as well. So, I appreciate that, because I know that, like we both said, they definitely need that assistance with that transition. So
yeah, and that's why I do conversations like this, and as a way to kind of give back and just be able to. My goal anytime I'm coaching somebody is really understand, because I was behind the scenes with both the candidates as well as the clients, or decision makers, hiring managers. So my goal is to really teach people kind of like what happens behind there, like what happens in that scenario setting, and how can you navigate those waters? How can you understand what, like how can you make sense of today's job market, especially with what, what we're all faced with right now. So, so that's really my biggest goal, is just to be able to hopefully make a little bit of sense. I don't have all the answers, but I always say if I had all the answers, I wouldn't be here, but I'd be in some island or somewhere. But definitely just trying to make, if we can kind of make sense, and if you can understand how to navigate the job market from that perspective, it gives you a little bit of an edge, and it gives you that extra piece of like, how do I have these conversations?
Yeah. So let's get into it then. I know when I came out, our transition program coming out of the service, mine was only a couple of days, and it was go to homedepot.com, go to lowes.com, go to the veteran friendly websites that'll help you out, go sign up at the VA. Good luck. And that's what I got. I hear it's gotten better over the years, and there's more information, they bring in more recruiters and different types and stuff like that. But so what is your advice for those people going from the military that are fixing to get out there, whether it's 6 months before they get out or they're on their way out? What do they need to be doing on their way out?
So one thing that I do recommend for anyone transitioning is I want to start seeing you plan at least 6 months out, okay? Because the transition, and know that I don't even care what job market we're facing, that transition period is going to be very beneficial for you, because there's a lot of work that people in general, regardless if you're transitioning out of the military, but just people in general don't do. And that's why job searches become so hard. So that work that you can be doing this 6 months in advance, okay, is I want you to start thinking, take an inventory of your skills. Take an inventory, and I don't care if you are you've been a high-ranking officer to the person that's working in the mess hall, okay? I've worked with everybody, to be very honest with you. And everyone brings a certain skill set and a certain ability. So take an inventory of your skills first and foremost. And then let's really start thinking, what are those opportunities that you want to, you think you'd be really good at? What are some of your strengths? This is a great time to start asking the people around you, not just your friends, not just your family, but I don't want to get the rankings wrong. And obviously it's different with each type of, with each unit and things of that nature. But, those that have been your commanding officers above you, obviously I know there's some, usually some types of reviews, things of that nature that happen. So taking those into account, all of this is information that you can use. We just have to translate it into what I'm going to call corporate speak. Okay. We just have to translate that into how does that translate to the job that you're looking for. So if you've been in procurement or sourcing and things of that nature, now's the time to get the numbers, to get the how many people have you done XYZ. If you're a mechanic, what's the type of machinery you've worked on? What's the type of you're going to definitely be interesting to say, hey, I worked on an Air Force fighter pilot set on, like that's a topic of conversation. So you're going to grab my attention. I'm going to be curious about that, but like, what are the tools that you've used? What are the softwares you've used? So let's take that inventory and then let's really start to think about where are the jobs that I could apply for? What are the things that I'm really strong at? And then what we need to do is we need to get a resume in place. And that usually is, anytime I've worked with somebody in the military, and I've worked with individuals that have had lots of years of experience, have done their, basic level of service, have, maybe gotten out, have taken advantage of the college opportunity. And, but regardless of the amount, it's usually papers, stacks of papers of like things that they've done. And so it's usually overwhelming information. Now, I personally don't necessarily get overwhelmed by it, because for me, more information is a asset, because that means we have a lot to distill down. But I think for a person that is coming out of the situation, the first thing is, just take it step by step. Just take it position by position that you've had. Right. And at some point, your probably earlier experience may not necessarily be of relevance to where you're going today. We know we can remove that. Okay, let's put that over here. Let's focus over here. So I think the resume is the piece, but understanding those skills and those strengths. Yeah. And if you can really hone in on that, and it's going to take, and I'm going to give you the advantage. It doesn't matter if you come from military or not. People are not doing this. And this is why they struggle. They jump automatically to, let's translate the resume, and then I'm going to send the resume out. What you end up doing is you kind of end up floundering, because you're not necessarily applying to jobs that are your skill set. I do agree with all of those. Find the companies that do support hiring veterans and that are veteran focused. I will say, yes, I know I'm going to get some people that are going to roll their eyes at this comment. Yes, LinkedIn is a tool that you can use. You don't have to look for your job there. But here's a key. Here's a key that I'm going to say. And you were talking about the story about like what real veteran, a real veteran supports another veteran, right? That's the truth. There's always going to be mad respect. And in my household, for example, even my kids, my 30-year-old son and my 22-year-old daughter have mad respect for veterans, because they know what their papa went through, so this is where you can find other veterans that are working in these companies that can make introductions, that can introduce you to other people. And if you can grow that circle, you're going to be ahead of that game. Right.
Yeah, because it's just, after being 10 years in my current job in an office type setting, a financial field, I found that it's almost like the military. Once you're in so long in the service, people that are serving. For me, example, I knew guys on different ships in different ports because I worked with them at one point, or friends of friends. It's the same thing in the civilian world. The company I work for, maybe a friend of mine, his wife works at another company that's similar to ours, and they got the in. So, a lot of it has to do with that networking, right? And
The
getting to
networking,
find that veteran group out there and network through that veteran group, and they're going to branch out, and they're going to be the ones that are going to help you find that. But
it will be the most invaluable thing to get connected.
Mhm.
And that's also too, and honestly, if you're like, hey, I noticed that you served in the Navy, and where did you serve at? What did you do for the Navy?
Yep.
9 times out of 10, hey, I'm currently leaving the Navy in 6 months.
Yeah.
And I'm, looking to expand my network. Something as simple as that. You're not asking for a job. You're not asking for anything. Right. I just want you to expand your network of people. And, you may be stationed off somewhere else and you're going back home clear across the country or going to someplace new. And so maybe you haven't been in that area for a long time, and another transition that you've got to deal with. Obviously, moving is one of the biggest things, obviously. And so there's so many moving pieces, and I know I'm adding to that, but that's why I want you really to know, like, okay, here's the exit date. So let's take the calendar back and let's 6 months in. And if you're not there, and if you're like, oh, wow, hey, I'm behind the curve, that's okay. Because now you have a place to begin. So I never want somebody to feel like, oh, I'm behind the curve. It's like, no, it's okay. Because, again, these are things that we just know that sometimes we got to expedite a little bit faster, right? We just got to look up. But don't be afraid of and the reason I suggest LinkedIn is it's really, honestly, it is a search engine. I mean, that's it. It is social media. You don't have to use it for social media, but it is a search engine at its heart and soul.
Right.
So if you think about it in that way, and literally like type in your title of your role in the military unit, and pick the state, say Georgia, and this is the title, you would be surprised at what's going to come up in that search. It's going to show you people that have that, because why? That means that there's that word and phrase is somewhere in their profile.
Right.
So automatically you have something that connects you. Because they know what you know at some level, probably. But now you have that connector, and if you can build that relationship, and honestly, don't be afraid to ask for advice.
Yeah.
How did you transition? What tools did you use? Hey, did you use a recruiter that helped you land that job? Because that's probably an indication then that recruiter is probably a good recruiter, or at least understands how to work with veterans or knew how to translate that information. So when we're job searching, we definitely have to leave our egos at the door. And we have to be able to say, okay, I'm going to need help. And I'm going to need help. And, obviously when we're dealing with mental health, we're dealing with suicide awareness, asking for help is sometimes the hardest thing in ever. And I suffer from anxiety. I suffer from, I knock on wood, but I know what it feels like to have a debilitating anxiety attack and literally just be frozen on the couch and like, I function. But, I can't, I've gotten to the point where there's times that I can't make a decision on what to eat.
I know that feeling.
And I'm literally I will only order this. If I'm really stressed, sometimes I'll only order the same thing because it's just literally that's the easiest thing for me. So I understand, and I truly do understand that, and I see it again. It doesn't matter if it's military or not. I see it happening all the time in job searching. People, there is sometimes a feel of shame or struggle if you're not right out of the bat, out of the gate, and I'm super successful and boy, I landed the job. And I will tell you that the biggest asset you can do is asking for help. It's asking questions, putting yourself out there and introducing yourself. And that's why I suggest even reaching out to other veterans, because they already have some familiarity with what you're going through.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Melanie, you a couple minutes ago, you said words and phrases. And I want to talk on that because that is probably one of the hardest parts to get that resume past that initial computer review, right? Because we know those computers kick those resumes back all the time if they don't have certain words. So when we come back from this brief message, we're going to talk about translating those skills from machine gunner to office work or whatever the case may be. And we're going to talk about making sure you catch those right phrases on those resumes and your cover letters. Don't forget the cover letters. And that way we can get you past that first initial review by the computer system. So we'll be right back after these messages.
Still see the spray painted stop sign when I roll down 79. The drag marks behind that mini mart ain't faded after all this time. Every mad dive from Georgia to California's got a boy with a rebel heart. Stories in every small town scar that by a good old boy taking it way too far. Somebody had to drink too much and crank Hank way too loud. Somebody had to always stand up to the guy with a tendency to run his mouth. The straight pipe Chevy had to run these streets like Bo and Luke in the General Lee. Yeah, somebody had to, and that somebody was me. There's still ruts on Ridge Hill Road and muddy cans we tossed out the window. String bikini on a limb by a swimming hole. That's a story that'll never be told. Cigarette butts in a busted bottle sitting by that old burn pile. This town was nothing without us, tearing it up every once in a while. Somebody had to drink too much and crank Hank way too loud. Somebody had to always stand up to the guy with a tendency to run his mouth. The straight pipe Chevy had to run these streets like Bo and Luke in the General Lee. Yeah, somebody had to, and that somebody was me. Yeah, somebody had to get a 4.0, full ride, whole life planned out on track. Somebody had to make a touchdown pass when state front page name written in black. But somebody had to drink too much and crank Hank way too loud. Somebody had to always stand up to the guy with a tendency to run his mouth. The straight pipe Chevy had to run these streets like Bo and Luke in the General Lee. Yeah, somebody had to, and that somebody was me. That somebody was me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back here on Full Speed Ahead After Battle again every Monday night at 7 Central on MB Radio or mbradio.us, MB Radio Talk Facebook. We're on X, we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, we're on Roku as well. We're all over the place. So if you want to follow or you can come on and donate, we do this for free to help veterans, but behind the scenes, we could use some help to be able to continue to help veterans to continue to raise funds, not just for us, but we also do put a lot of work back into the community and helping those other veterans in the community. What I always forget to do, and I got to get better at this, people, I'm trying here. Make sure you go on. You see all the links at the top. MB Radio, as I said, you can find us on Fire TV, Roku, Instagram, Facebook, X. You can find me on the Facebook page at Full Speed Ahead After Battle. You can find me on Instagram at Josh McCabe 817. You can find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, under the Full Speed Ahead, Podbean, Spotify. We're all over the place. So make sure you go up there. like one of those, follow one of those, subscribe one of those. Again, not to get me out there, not to get the show, not to get MBR out there, but to make sure we get the message out there for those veterans in need. And we just came off that song by Dawson Edward, Somebody Had To. I love that song because I think that explains a lot of us veterans out there is if we didn't step up and do it, who was going to? Somebody had to. I stepped up because, it ran in the family. I always knew from little kid that I was going to do that. So I had to do that. I had to do it for my family. I had to do it for my daughter. Our guest on today, she felt the need to have to do something to step up, be that career coach, help those other people out there. And so that's why I played that song tonight. We may have another one here in a few minutes, but enough with all of that. Again, subscribe, comment, do whatever. You can comment on tonight's live on the show. We'll talk about it, whatever. But let me go ahead and bring our guest Melanie back on. Melanie, welcome back. Thank you. And like I said before we got off the line, before we went to that break, I want to talk about translating those skills and making sure that we're using those right words to get us through that initial process. Because I don't know how many times when I first got out, let me go back a little bit. I went into the Navy when I was 18, 19 years old, right? And that was my first major job ever. And so when I got out in 2011 and I walked into Home Depot, I walked into Walmart, I got told the same thing everywhere. It's online. What are you doing here? You need to go online and spend. I'm like, okay, I had no idea how this works. And so that's kind of where I struggled. And then so what did I do? I sat down. I wrote my resume out the best that I could. And back then that was still before AI and all this other translation stuff, right? And so I did the best I could and I would send it out and it's almost an immediate rejection or the next day rejection. You do not meet the standards. We're going to go with somebody different, yada, yada. And so that's another struggle. It's like, okay, what is it that this computer system is looking for to get that resume actually in front of a human being now? So let me ask you that, Melanie. When we're talking about skills translations, I know it's probably based on the job description that they're hiring for, right? But what are some of those major keywords that we need to make sure that we're using in our resumes or applications?
So I think this is the hardest piece for anybody in terms of the job search. I work with a lot of people that are pivoting. So they may be pivoting because they have to, or they're pivoting because they are, looking to do something else. And so what you really want to do is take your experience. And now we've done that skills inventory. And now we want to look at the job descriptions. What are the words and phrases that they're using in these job descriptions? You could probably take about 3 to 5 job descriptions at any given time. And there's probably going to be similarities. You're going to see patterns repeating because you're leaning towards something. So project management, for example. Now you may be saying, hey, I'm not a project manager. I never had the title of project manager. And the truth is there are so many jobs in the military that you are managing projects, whether you're managing people, whether you're managing a unit, whether you're managing whatever that may be. So you have to just take that, and we're not, and I don't want it to seem like, well, I'm lying or anything. Like, no, we're just translating it. We're translating it from the world that you've been in, and we're translating it to show the person over here, this is how this translates. This is how I've done it. So we may need to, change some of those phrases that we would use in the military, and we now need to make them more public speak. So we need to use those words like project management. We need to be able to quantify. So how many, well, I don't even care if it's like how many hours you did, a certain type of role or something, because you want to exemplify the type of work ethic and the type of, because these are also the things too that are important. And so it is important to get some of those key words and phrases. But the real key is we just kind of want to mirror. We don't have to use the same exact job. We don't want to just take a job description and go, yeah, I did this. Okay. We just want to mirror it so that it looks like I can kind of look at a resume and go, oh, I could see this person doing that job. I understand. And so that's really one of the big things is getting this all. I'm a little old school in the sense that I do use all the, some of the tools and things of that nature, but I do still like to just have pen and paper out and kind of match up. So, if they say in a job description, for example, it's important that you have strong collaboration and work cross-functionally with other teams. Okay, how do we translate this in the military? So this is, when we work with, whether it's other units or other departments within that, in that group, or hey, I manage multiple different types of people, things like that. So we just want to go through that bullet point by bullet point. And this is the easiest way I've found to do this. And in your own words, so print off a job description and in your own words, next to that bullet point, tell me how you did that in the military. Tell me how you did that in your position. So now we have a basis. We'll take this phrase that you've created, which becomes a bullet point. And now we can actually utilize some of these tools that are out there that are helping us, that have actually can help us. And so by just simply saying, here's the job description. Now you do have to be careful. I want to put an asterisk. Some of these tools have a tendency to change the information too, because they're to make you happy. The job of these tools is to give you the responses that thinks you are looking for. So that is it's 100%, right? So you do have to clarify. Don't change the information, but how would I word this in a way that shows this responsibility is what I've done by using the words that I've just written. So you're giving it the words you've written and asking it to translate. And even if you just do this, like this is an exercise, you're going to start building that muscle up to basically being able to say, okay, now I understand. And even this is going to help you prepare for an interview, because we want, again, we're painting the picture. Painting that picture, we want to try to take a few of those keywords over here, and we want to try to put them into your resume. Oftentimes we create resumes and we think about the audience we're speaking to, which is in this case, military section, and it doesn't like people don't understand when you're talking military talk. Like, like I don't have a clue about it. And even the same goes for like recruiters, for like example. So sometimes when I was, managing a brand new recruiter, I would have to tell them, like, don't use that verbiage or words, because that doesn't mean anything to the outside world. Like, that's our speak. Right. And I get it, but the person you just talked to has no clue what you're talking about. So we have to translate it. And really the key is kind of, I don't want to offend anybody by saying this, but we have to dumb it down. I mean, we really do. Like, we have to dumb this down so that it makes sense, so that I see how you've managed to do this. Yeah. Please know too, like, we do know there's a higher level of competition. So understand the applicant tracking system, or the ATSs, you probably have heard about it. It's not this big, bad, ugly machine. It is a tool that's supposed to be efficient for recruiters, because we do get an abundance of like high level of applications for each position. So it's supposed to help narrow that down. So a general rule of thumb is, if you can go through that exercise, and in the beginning, it's probably going to take you a lot longer, and you're going to be like, well, this girl has me applying for one job. Like, what the heck? Like, I'm not going to. But here's the thing. I would rather you apply for 5 jobs that you're really qualified for, as opposed to 20 jobs that are huge stretches. Right. Okay? Right. I'd rather you spend, and again, this is what people are not doing, spend that time on those 5 jobs that you are super qualified for. Put the effort in over here, because it's going to pay off. It's better to pay off 5 times as opposed to 0 on 20. Right. And so just kind of by breaking it down, it will feel like it takes you a little bit longer, but you're going to see yourself pick up the pace because like, oh yeah, I already have that one because I've already done, because you're also going to probably be applying for the same type of jobs, basically.
Right.
So once you get that process down, and then you mentioned cover letter before we went to break, and I want to say to you, I know there's going to be people out there who tell you, don't bother, don't bother. Here's the thing. I come from a perspective of we use every tool in our toolbox in the job market, okay? You don't know what's important to that person on the other end.
Right. Right.
Here's the thing. You may not know that that person on the other end is a veteran. Maybe they're like me, who had a father that was a veteran, who has a soft spot and understands that, veterans bring us so many attributes and skills. Because I'm likely not going to need you to save, God, I hope not, but I'm probably not going to need you to save my life at work. From if you were out, and if you're actually in a war fighting situation, I probably am not going to need that, but you're probably going to be, but if you've been in charge of saving people's lives, that's far, a greater responsibility than.
Yeah, I'm. It's funny that you bring that up because every business out there, they go through some sort of training, whether it's unfortunately now it's like active shooter, right? Everybody goes through all that training, and the businesses nowadays are telling you that you're going to run, then you're going to hide, then you're going to fight. But then the people that I'm sitting in that class that know me, they look at me and they're like, I'm following that guy because he's not doing that.
I'm going to do whatever Josh tells me to do. Okay. If Josh tells me to hit the ground, I'm hitting the ground.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly. And my wife works at the same place, and, we work in the same floor area and everything. And, we've talked about it, and I'm like, okay, I know they told you that in training, but what you're going to do is you're going to hide under your desk and you're going to wait for me to come get you and then we'll leave because I got to make sure you're okay. So, I say that, but everybody, you never know what's going to happen, right? You got to play until you get punched in the mouth.
And I know that's and you're, unfortunately the world we live in, maybe it's not an extreme example, unfortunately anymore, but, but the reality is this. So if a job description were to say, and this is very lighthearted in response to what we just talked about, works well under pressure. Yeah, well, okay, let me tell you how well I work under pressure. So here's my thing. You've been over here protecting lives and in a war fighting situation. I'm probably sure you're going to handle any pressure that I've got over here. Okay. It's not. And so I think that's where your story of, maybe not all the stories that you had. And so I want to preface that maybe not all the stories that happened in the military, but pick a story or two as it relates to the job. Right. You could share in a cover letter. Now, you're not going to hear me tell you to do the same cover letter that everybody's writing, which says, I'm super excited about blah, blah, blah opportunity. I want you to tell me, I want it to be less than half a page. I want it to be a quick blurb. And here's why. The reason I do believe in cover letters, but I do them slightly different than the average person. I want it to be something that sets you apart. I want it to be something different. And automatically, if I see that that's shorter than the average cover letter, I'm probably going to be inclined to read it. And now if you tell me something fun or interesting about yourself, about your military, hey, leaving, I don't know why Kuwait was the first thing that came to my mind, but, leaving Kuwait, whatever, and just share something different and tie it into the job description. Now you've caught my attention.
Right.
And again, military or not military, these are things people are just simply not doing in the job market. And this is also, so if you can do things that can help set yourself apart, you're going to be ahead of the game. And that's what you have to do. You are going to have to put yourself out there. But, in so many ways, you've already done that in the military. mean,
Yeah.
go back to your basic training days, which may have been many years ago, and you're like, I don't want to think about those days. But, I know I have a friend whose son just went through basic training he's Air Force out in Colorado. And she's a worried mama. I'm going to be honest. So she's like, I don't know if he's going to make it. Like, I don't know if he's going to, I don't know, it definitely changed him in just the few months that he's been away and just started. And so, but you've already gone through that. So, you have a story to tell and you have a way to set yourself apart.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned the story, because that's what I want to touch on next. And this will probably be a wrap up for the show. But I think this is one of the most important things that everybody gets stuck on. And that's when you get to that interview and they say, walk me through your resume. Everybody gets stuck there because they go line by line. This is what I did. And then nobody wants to hear that. Right. So they want to hear that general story. They can see the resume. They can read the line by line. They want to hear what's behind those lines and in between those lines. And how does that tie into, the job description or what you're going to be doing? So let's touch on that a little bit. What is the best answer to that question? Walk me through your resume.
Well, you nailed it there. Don't give me your full story. In fact, did an interview prep with a client today who we were practicing, and I said, okay, here, let's tweak this a little bit. I said, there's bits and pieces I like hearing about this, but I don't need all of that. I need you to capture my attention. So I want you to cut to the chase. Okay. I want to, give me a little bit, but then jump into what part of your story makes you qualified for this position. Now that might be in some cases 2 or 3 jobs that you've had. You can say, in the opportunity that I had in the Army, or the Navy, or whichever, that I, had the opportunity to take on 3 to 4 roles. And each of these roles, I did X, Y, and Z. And as I gained more experience in this area, I was able to move up and expand upon my skills, which it gave me the opportunity to learn a software or learn this. So now I'm pulling in the job description into my own story. And this is what I call checking the boxes. So as I'm the recruiter and you're telling me those things and you're hitting home on that, I'm going, okay, Josh has that. I'm checking those boxes off in my head. And if I can get all of those boxes marked, which you probably won't, and that's okay. It's very rare that actually happens. Then I know you're a top candidate. When we start back, well, I entered the Navy when I was 18 years old, and I had, of course, the first few jobs that I worked my way up through, and then I finally landed that job in, I'm lost for a here, whatever that was. I finally found a job, really loved it. Okay, get to that point, because I already know you went to the Navy. I know yes.
Yeah, right.
I said I could see it. But I want to know, what was that passion? What was that thing that clicked?
Right. Yeah.
Or as I've been building my experience, this is really where I realized that I really wanted to hone in. So I've done these things. And I want you to lean in on I want you to talk about the verbs and the words that are used in the job description, because now you're speaking my language. And, in the Army, this was, I did XYZ, which is very much the same as, project management or, procurement or sourcing or recruiting, whatever that case may be for you. I want you to translate that for the person. Again, checking those boxes. Right.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I learned over the years is going from, line by line and telling them a little bit more about that backstory. But, that kind of goes into as well, making sure you have that 30-second elevator speech ready, right? Because you never know, you may run into somebody at the gas station and they comment on your veteran shirt, and then you start talking, and that's networking. And guess what? He's a headhunter at another business and they're looking for somebody now, and now you have that connection and whatnot. So, I hate it, believe it or not. I hate that small talk, and I hate talking about myself. But that's one of those things that you got to get comfortable with, is that small talk, whether it's sitting in the waiting room or, that elevator speech. And so you got to get those things prepared. And I know some people don't like doing that, but it definitely comes in handy, especially when it comes to those interviews. Yeah.
I'm an introvert. I'm actually very shy. I'm a very shy person. I'm not the person that's going to be the person that's going to go out and like have a conversation and be like, okay, let me, my job kind of forces me not to be shy in situations, but, it's very like, I don't really like those situations. I don't like small talk, to be very honest. I find it really like cringy. But the truth is here, and that's also where the small talk piece is, you just don't know. I have another coach friend who had a family member that was struggling with their job search, kind of kept it in line. Come to find out, like their neighbor 3 doors down or something, they had moved in, they didn't really know them or something, like their wives, or they went to some sort of, I don't know, block party or whatever. Anyways, they get talking and they kind of find out, they're like, he finally mentions, oh yeah, I'm looking for a job. And I think there was probably some shame there, like, oh, I don't want to be like the unemployed guy and like all of that.
Right.
But as soon as the other neighbor was like, oh, I, know so-and-so that's hiring at such an, made the introduction for them. And so I think it's just really important to remember there's no shame to job searching. There's no shame in asking for help. And that's those two pieces are going to open more doors for you than anything else in the search, really, truthfully. Because if you have somebody that's advocating for you and can help make an introduction, that's going to go 10 times further than anything else you do in the job market.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they always say it, but I've seen it firsthand. A lot of the times it does come down to who you know, right? They get you that introduction in the door, and they'll get you recruited over there or something like that. So you never know who you're talking to that's going to get you that foot in the door. So
and it doesn't have to be your best friend.
Right, exactly. It could be a random person. Yes, exactly. So, well, Melanie, we're coming to the end of the show this week, and again, I thank you for coming on, helping veterans out with this, because I think this is one of the most important things when it comes to a veteran. And I haven't mentioned this yet in the show, but one of the leading factors in veteran suicide is that transition period where they lose who they are. They lose everything they know. They're going to interview after interview after interview, and they're saying no, no, no. And it's like, okay, well, why am I here? Nothing's working, and unfortunately, that's what causes a lot of the veteran suicide. And so 22 veterans commit suicide every day. We know that. That means in the past hour of the show, probably one veteran has committed suicide. This is why we're doing the show, is to get that out there, to get this exact message out there. So, Melanie, before we wrap up, I want to give you just a couple of quick minutes. Last piece of advice, last number one thing to remember during a resume interview, whatever you want to give to the people out there.
I just want you all to know, like, first off, you can find me just Melanie Mitchell Wexler on LinkedIn. Super, super easy to do that. I am going to encourage you to go on LinkedIn. Connect with me, because I do also have other free resources, things of that nature, can help get, make introductions, things of that nature. And really, honestly, I know I've probably beaten the dead horse here, but to your point, Josh, in terms of please ask for help. Please don't be, don't, I'm going to change this slightly. Don't isolate yourself once you've transitioned. Get connected in your community, whether that's volunteering, while you're looking for a job. One of the greatest things that you can do for your mindset and just your own mental health is to give back to others. And it's also a great way to network and also put yourself out there and gain new skills. Don't be afraid to, like I said, ask for help, but also get connected to groups, whether it's a veterans group. There's also a lot of groups on LinkedIn. Some of them are not active. I didn't do a search ahead of time, but I be happy with anybody that connects with me. I can show you how to find those groups on LinkedIn. I'm probably 99.9% sure there are veterans associated groups. So get connected with other veterans that are in the job market. That to me is your biggest asset, is you're going to connect with that person that knows where you've come from, but guess what? They're in that job. So that's proof to you that you can do it too. And I always say in the job search, in the world of whatever happens in this world, we always look for proof of one, right? If there's one person that's done it, that means that there's more likely two people. And it's just a compound effect after that. So find, if you can connect with those other veterans that have done your job, that shows you proof that it's possible to make that transition.
Yeah. All right, Melanie. Well, thank you so much again for being on Full Speed Ahead After Battle this week. I will make sure to send you my resume when I go job hunting, just so you can make sure everything's good on there. But I appreciate it, and good luck in the future with everything. And people, if y'all are watching, make sure to reach out to Melanie. All right. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you. Everyone have a great night.
All right, y'all. Well, that wraps up this week's Full Speed Ahead After Battle. That was Melanie Wexler. She is the LinkedIn strategist, career coach. She's been doing this for a long time. And as you heard, networking is key. Just like when we're in the service, you got to know the guy in the ship store. You got to know the guy in supply to be able to get all that stuff that you need. You can't just do it on your own. So good luck out there with the transition. I know it's hard. I know the resumes suck. I know doing the interviews are they could drive you crazy. I do them all the time, and it never, for me, it gets easier. I'm sure it's going to get easier for everybody else. But just remember, if you hear one no, that's not the end of the world. Just keep moving forward. I always say that they say no, but that's for a reason. There's always a reason for everything, and everything happens for a reason. So keep on going with that. So I'm going to leave y'all for this week. I'm going to get back to the family and everything here in Mississippi. I'll be back in Texas here later on this week. And getting back to work and everything else. Next week on the show, we have Tiffany Childers. She is an author, a speaker, and a suicide loss advocate. So we're going to be talking to somebody. She's going to be giving her advice and her skill set on those that are dealing with somebody that commits suicide. So whether you're a family member or a friend or somebody that has experienced someone else committing that suicide, we're going to hear from that side. So as I tell everybody every week, you're not in this alone. It's okay to ask for help. Reach out, mbradio.us. Anybody on that website, that page, this group, I guarantee you anybody will help you out. Reach out to me. I'm always here to talk. My DMs are open for those veterans that need a voice to talk to. Anything else. So hang in there. Things get better. You're not in this alone. All right. I'll take care and see you next week, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us, giving our veterans a voice.